Okay, my clock says 11 in the Central Time Zone. That's noon in the Eastern Time Zone. And let's go ahead and begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Green Builder Media Impact Series, Game Changers in Sustainability. Today's presentation features Laura Storm, Executive Director of Sustainia. Today's webinar would not be possible without the support of our generous sponsors. And those sponsors are BASF. BASF is a leader in the construction industry. With more than 600 products serving 75 construction product categories, BASF offers the broadest portfolio of products used directly on construction sites or integrated into other products to improve the performance of construction projects. BASF is also a global leader in sustainability and corporate social responsibility, committed to constant improvements in safety, protection of health, and environmental conservation. Bio-based insulation. Bio-based insulation spray polyurethane products help to lessen the environmental impact of residential and commercial structures by sealing and insulating in one step. Bio-based insulation integrates rapidly renewable ingredients as replacement for a portion the petroleum in many of their insulation products without hindering performance and has replaced chemical blowing agents with water. DuPont. DuPont puts science to work by creating sustainable solutions essential to a better, safer, healthier life for people everywhere. DuPont is focused on dynamic science that generates real-world solutions. That's why DuPont is at the forefront of building science, with brands you depend on like Tyvek, Century Glass, Corian Solid Surfaces, Zodiac Quartz Surfaces, and Kevlar. Green Builder Coalition. The Green Builder Coalition is working to improve the sustainable attributes of new and existing buildings through education, information, and advocacy. For more information, log on to www.greenbuildercoalition.org. Uponor. Uponor is a worldwide supplier of radiant heating and cooling, plumbing, and fire sprinkler systems that provide energy and water efficiency to homes and businesses around the globe. To learn more, please visit www.uponor-usa.com. My name is Mike Collignan. I'm the Executive Director of the Green Builder Coalition, and I'm pleased to be your facilitator for today's session. I hope during the course of today's presentation, you'll submit your questions via the Q&A box. We'll review your questions and pose them to our speaker during the Q&A time set aside near the close of the webcast. And now to introduce today's speaker. Ms. Laura Storm has extensive experience in leading climate and sustainability projects. In the run-up to the important COP15 in Copenhagen, Ms. Storm was the project director of the Copenhagen Climate Council, a group of high-level CEOs, scientists, and policy designers, including Steve Chu, Jim Rogers, and Sir Richard Branson. Furthermore, she was the project director of the World Business Summit on Climate Change, the largest gathering of global CEOs discussing a sustainable economy. Ms. Storm has previously worked in government administration and for global communications and public relations companies. Ms. Storm holds a master's degree in political communication and leadership from Copenhagen Business School. I will now hand it over to our host, Ron Jones, president of Green Builder Media and co-founder of the Green Builder Coalition, to take it away. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome, Laura. Thank you, everyone. This is going to be an exciting webinar today. So let's just dive right in there. Laura, when we spoke previously, I suggested that it might be fun to tell us about Sustainia from the standpoint of someone who is not familiar with it at all. So I wonder if you would mind doing that.
Of course, Ron, and thank you for giving Sustainia the opportunity of presenting to your interesting target group and group of stakeholders today. So remind or allow me to go back a little because Sustainia has been on the way for a very long time. And to someone who's not familiar with climate change negotiations and political negotiations. And when I say we, I talk about Monday Morning, who is a Scandinavian think and innovation tank. We were very much involved in helping provide momentum and support to a new political treaty from the business community. So we had an organization called the Copenhagen Climate Council that were working to help political negotiators provide the right support for international business leaders in the hope to negotiate the successor to the Kyoto Protocol, an international climate treaty that everyone thought would be renegotiated in Copenhagen back in 2009. So that's where we started a really focused process on an international level on providing the right support for negotiating a new political treaty. So I will start out with showing a few pictures from that point in time. So the first picture I'll show you is us handing over the Copenhagen Call, which was a set of very ambitious recommendations to a new political treaty developed by world-leading corporations and scientists and policy designers. On this picture, you see our chairman, Tim Flannery, handing over the Copenhagen Call to the executive director of the whole UN negotiation process, Yvo de Boer, and the host of the COP15, the then Danish Prime Minister. The political negotiations didn't go exactly as we hoped for. The hopes were incredibly high. For the first time in history actually, we had 196 heads of state gathered, and they were gathered to do the best they could to secure a new international global binding treaty. And these pictures are heads of state negotiating, trying to seek a successful political outcome. It didn't really go as well as we hoped for, and we didn't see a successful political outcome back in 2009 in Copenhagen. But what we did see, and what I think this process was a witness to, was a commitment to act from the business society and a commitment to actually doing something about this. It was not the right time to develop a new political treaty. We still hope that will come. But what we did see in Copenhagen was a global support to this approach. And what I think this process witnessed or demonstrated was that we do have the potential and the solutions needed. So after everyone was a bit disappointed with the whole Copenhagen outcome, we started a process with our stakeholders to see what was it that went wrong, what can we do better the next time, what can international business leaders, civil society leaders do to ensure that we don't lose important momentum, but that we continue to build on the excitement that we did see leading up to Copenhagen back in 2009. And what we saw was that the way that we communicated about these issues was simply too complex and too complicated in order for us to create a global momentum and a global desire to actually really do something about this challenge. So we started to look at what kind of words are actually used to communicate the biggest challenge of mankind. And the slide that I'm showing you now are some of the most common words used to communicate global warming, to communicate a new global international treaty on climate change. And those aren't exactly the words that inspire people, engage people, make them excited. So that was one of the issues and one of the problems that we pointed out in the process. Another problem was that even though we truly believe that we have a huge environmental problem, this is the biggest challenge we are facing of mankind today, that the pictures used to communicate about these issues were only pictures of gloom and doomsday, were only pictures of fear. And there is a good reason to be scared. We believe in that as well. But it's not pictures that are motivating people. Science shows that pictures like the ones that I am showing you right now are the kind of pictures that just creates an even bigger distance. People simply don't want to engage or be associated with pictures like that. So what we saw was a real need for a new approach. So in collaboration with civil society leaders, international business, communications experts, policy designers, we had an alliance that believed that for us to be more effective in communicating this issue, we need a shared inspiring vision for the society we could create if we implemented solutions that are already ready and available today. So we created Sustainia. Sustainia is not utopia. It's based on science. It's based on, as I said before, ready and available technologies and solutions. This is not something that probably could happen. This is something that we believe would happen if we just started to implement these solutions. So basically, Sustainia clearly demonstrates the attractive society we all could live in. We communicate using inspiring pictures, and the whole identity we have developed around Sustainia has the purpose of inspiring people and engage them in this process, include their input and feedback in developing this vision for a new sustainable society. So we both have the clear vision, and we also have the path forward that we need to take. So basically, the quote that I want to show you now is to a large extent the essence of what we're all about. The quote is saying, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. And basically what this word is saying or communicating is that we, Sustainia, do not believe in pointing fingers, telling people what they have to do, but providing them with an inspiring vision, something to long for, something to strive for. So that was just a brief introduction to Sustainia, and how are we going to do this? What's our strategy? How will we build Sustainia? How will we realize it? Basically, our strategy consists of three main pillars, and these are not individual pillars, but all part of the same DNA. So they need to be seen as weaving in together in the same DNA. Basically, we want to identify the solutions already out there. We want to build the model and the new exciting narrative. And we want to communicate and engage people at all levels. We don't want a top-down approach, we want a bottom-up approach. Let me tell you a bit more about each of these pillars. The first pillar is all about identifying the solutions already out there. The Sustainia 100 is 100 solutions that exist today and will help create Sustainia. We believe there are much more solutions than just 100, but we have to start somewhere. So within energy, cities, transportation, buildings, resources, education, food, fashion, ICT, and health, we are gathering some of the absolute best solutions that we believe will help make Sustainia a reality. We have selected these solutions in a collaborative effort with civil society. So this is not just us identifying the right solutions, but us working with our partners and us reaching out to citizens and civil society at a larger scale. So we had over 300 submissions, proposals that were sent in, people that believed that this needed to be part of the Sustainia 100 catalog. These 100 solutions will be presented to world leaders in front of the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Gro Harlem Brundtland, a lot of high-level people that I will come back to in a second. They will be presented at the Rio Plus 20 summit that will happen in about a month, where civil society leaders and heads of state will meet for taking a sort of like a stock taking. How far have we come since world leaders met for the first time in 1992 to discuss sustainable development? I'll come back to all of that. The Sustainia 100 are at the same time nominees for winning the Sustainia Award. The Sustainia Award will be announced by our honorary chair, Arnold Schwarzenegger, later this year in October. And it will both be an award that will be selected by the jury members, but we will also have a People's Choice Award. So from June 20 till October, people can vote for what solution they think are the best solution. So that's our approach to identifying the Sustainia 100, and this will continue year after year. And the idea is to have a Sustainia 500, maybe even a Sustainia 1000 in a couple of years' time. The next pillar is our pillar that focuses on developing the model and the narrative. We have developed the first guide to Sustainia, which we launched approximately 6 months ago. Sustainia is a very new initiative, still in development, but the first guide to Sustainia presented the vision of this new society that we believe that we could make a reality. The first guide to Sustainia focuses on cities, homes, energy, and transportation, but our goal is to each year include more chapters, expand the universe. So this time in October, or this year in October, we will include fashion, ICT, healthcare, and hopefully also resources in the next edition to the Guide to Sustainia. But we are not only doing an overall guide to Sustainia, we're also developing city guides and sector guides. The first city guide will be announced or launched this Monday at a huge event. We have the mayor of Copenhagen inviting people into how Copenhagen could look like in a little over 10 years. And we take the Sustainia principles and adopt them to an existing city and show our citizens how their city could look like if it went on a more sustainable path, what exciting opportunities it holds for them as a citizen, and how they will improve their quality of life. We're also doing sector guide, and the first sector guide will be on buildings. As many of your audience will know, buildings are, the whole building industry holds a fantastic potential. Today, buildings account for approximately 40% of our energy use, 70% of our electricity use, 40% of our total carbon emissions, 65% of our waste output. It is a hugely important industry with huge potential. So it's natural for us to develop the first sector guide on buildings. But we can get back to that in a second. Our third and last pillar is to communicate and engage civil society. We want to make sure that Sustainia is more than things we write about in books and things we communicate about on Facebook and Twitter and on our website. We want to make sure that Sustainia is a virtual construction site, a buzzing virtual construction site, where we invite all people with great ideas and people that want to engage in developing this vision further. So the long-term vision is to actually create a virtual universe that people can access and get a sense of how it would be to live like in Sustainia, where they could explore various sectors, various solutions on their own. So just very briefly an overview of all our activities and how they're fitting together. So we want to engage the business leader, the politician, the average Joe and Joanna. We want to inspire them with our vision, present to them the exciting solutions that are out there. And each year we want to measure progress on a country-by-country basis. So this Monday we are launching the Sustainia Index, which is the first index that are measuring on indicators within both social, economic, and environmental indicators. I can explain more about that if people are interested. But that will be a country-by-country ranking, so that we each year can track how far people or countries have come in terms of realizing Sustainia. So who is actually behind Sustainia? Sustainia was created, as I said in the beginning, by civil society leaders, but also corporations that each represented a key pillar or solution in terms of realizing Sustainia. We are constantly gathering more and more companies, and we want to reach out to civil society leaders as well, all with good, solid ideas that are ready and available today. We would like to collaborate with. We collaborate with the UN, we collaborate with Arnold Schwarzenegger's new initiative, the R20, and we collaborate with an international organization called the IFHP, which focuses on both housing and planning, and then a range of global companies, each ambitious and committed to making sure we realize Sustainia. Behind Sustainia is also our Sustainia committee, headed by Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, and 3 sustainability leaders representing each their approach. We have Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was the woman behind defining the first definition of sustainability back in 1982, 1987, which led to the first Rio summit in 1992. We have Dr. Pachauri, who is the chairman of the IPCC, which is the main science organization. And then we have a very ambitious, charismatic political leader from the EU, the European Commissioner for Climate Action, Connie Hedegaard. So the next time these leaders will be gathered will be for the Rio Plus 20. We have a big event on June 20 where we will announce the Sustainia 100 nominees. And then in the autumn we will announce the Sustainia Award winner. But we are constantly developing the Sustainia universe, and we are very excited about this opportunity of discussing with the building industry how we can make sure that your input are integrated in the whole Sustainia vision and philosophy. So I don't want to go into more details, but this is was just an overall presentation of the Sustainia University or universe.
Laura, I wonder if you would mind telling us a little bit more about your country ranking and index.
Yes, of course. So the Sustainia Index consists of, or is focusing on 3 main pillars. And it's, as I said before, it's social, environmental, and economic. And we are measuring on approximately 18 different indicators that are the first time that we are including social factors into an index. So we are also measuring not only focused on economic growth, but focused on the whole value chain of sustainable development. So for us, it's been key to include social dimensions in the index.
Laura, I need to let you know that we're having a little bit of difficulty in hearing what you're saying, so please be sure that you're close to the microphone there.
Yes, of course.
The the question that that I'm interested in at this point is, what do you have as your most desired outcomes from the Rio Plus 20 summit, and how will Sustainia be involved?
The way that Sustainia will be involved is that we will be a big platform for announcing the Sustainia 100 solutions. And our key mission in Rio will be to demonstrate to people that we actually do have the solutions needed to realize a sustainable world. We fear that the Rio Plus 20 summit will be communicated as a failure if we don't see any concrete political outcome. What we believe is that Rio Plus 20 will mark a success where we demonstrate the solutions and technologies and the collaborations that have happened over the past decades. So that's our key message for the Rio Plus 20 summit, to inspire people, motivate people, demonstrate that the potential is out there, the solutions is out there. We don't want to communicate more about now it's time to act, or we need to do something about this challenge. We want to demonstrate that the solutions are there, and basically the path is there.
I wonder, can you tell us a little bit more about, you said that you have an event that's scheduled for next week to announce sustainable cities there in Copenhagen. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, our event on Monday will be where we will invite people into the future. We will invite people into the future of a concrete city, Copenhagen in this case. So we have gathered people from all over the world to witness the first launch of a Sustainia city guide. So we will have approximately 200 delegates witnessing and getting introduced to how Copenhagen could look like if we implemented Sustainia principles. And it's not just Copenhagen principles or Sustainia principles, sorry. This is actually plans that the city has committed to. So this is their real political plan that we are implementing and demonstrating to citizens how it would look like. So the event on Monday will both be announcing the future of Copenhagen, and it will also be the platform for announcing the Sustainia Index. So what we hope come out of the event on Monday is that many other cities get inspired to demonstrate to their citizens what they could achieve if the city went on a more sustainable path. So that's what we basically hope comes out of the event on Monday, that we will start developing a lot of Sustainia city guides, and that cities will start to engage their citizens in developing a shared vision for where they want to take their city. Another thing that we want to get out of the event on Monday is a discussion around our Sustainia Index. The whole approach and the way we work is to constantly engage people in our work and to get their input. So when we are going to launch the index, we want a discussion around the indicators. Are we including the right indicators? Are we getting as good as a picture as possible? Because this will be the first time that we launch such an index. So we need to get it just right so we can do a credible annual ranking. So this index will include growth indicators, economic potential indicators, resource consumption, natural assets, and also health and safety and opportunity indicators. So we include indicators such as life expectancy, water availability, political stability, rule of law, and all of these indicators that we haven't seen before in an index focused on green growth or something similar.
I wonder if you could help me, Laura, and connect this for us to all of the difficulties that we're having with development and the built environment and the whole issue of green building and sustainable development. How do you see that playing into the effort that you have?
We think that the building industry, as I said before, holds enormous potential. They are also often criticized, and I don't want to go into that, but I think that the building industry, if they started to work more closely together, because to build something, to be very practical, you need a range of solutions, and partners within the building industry need to be better at collaborating and innovating together, so that we can more quickly and more rapidly come to something more concrete, and something that people can understand and relate to when they engage in, for example, private building projects. So I think collaboration for the building industry is absolutely critical, and we hope to engage more stakeholders from the building industry, and make them help us, or help we, because we need their help developing the exact concrete and inspiring vision for the building industry, because they have so much potential, and they also have a huge responsibility, because so many so much are due to the industry, in terms of carbon emission and etc.
What can companies as well as individuals do to become involved in this effort? What would you suggest as the first step?
If you are a company, write us and discuss your ideas. Um, we would like to engage as many companies as possible. However, it's important for us to say that we are only interested in working together with ambitious companies that share our vision. So that goes for companies that get in touch with us, tell us what kind of input you could provide, and let's start collaborating on realizing Sustainia. And that's not something that we say, that's something that we're really sincere about. For the larger community that doesn't represent a company or a technology or solution, they are equally important. So we're doing what we can, reaching out on our social media channels and get their input as well. Because if Sustainia is something that doesn't appeal to the larger public, we don't believe we will get much further than we are today. So we constantly need to make sure that their input are involved and used, and that we test our ideas among our community members.
Thank you. At this point, let me call on Mike. Mike, I assume that we have some questions as well as some comments from the folks who are attending the webinar. Do you have something that you'd like to share?
Yes, I do, Ron. Actually, we have an attendee, Jean, who is very appreciative of the positive vision that's being focused on solutions instead of problems. Uh, so you are commended for that, Laura. And we also had a question too, and this is going to be a more detailed question, but I think it's a very appropriate one. It comes from Marcos. And basically what he's asking is, how is Sustainia planning to turn this from a vision to a reality? How can this be made, as he says, it physically possible? I mean, this is very ambitious. There's a lot of hard work here, and coordination, time and effort that needs to be put into this, because it is a global vision that you have. And so he's just wondering about, taking that from the vision to reality and into practice.
That's a good question. So thank you for that. For us, it's incredibly important that we do have the vision and we do have the positive image to be inspired by and strive for. But that's why we focus so much on the actual solutions, the actual best practice. So the Sustainia 100 does not only represent technologies, it also represents best practice within how should I best develop my value chain, how should I best communicate to my stakeholders to make sure they all adapt to a more sustainable approach. So for us, it's critical that we constantly focus on a parallel approach, further develop the vision constantly, further expand the number of solutions that are tested and successful, and communicate and disseminate that best practice and that knowledge, and inspire others by others' success. Um, and that's also the approach we want to take in our sector guide, because one thing is what we're communicating in our overall guide to Sustainia vision. We need the sector guides to go a step further and actually develop a hands-on guide to what that industry can do, and not on only a visionary basis, because that won't get us anywhere, because people might say, oh yeah, I really want to go there, but how? So we are constantly focused on the how approach, and interviewing people that have already had success or failures that we all can learn from, and constantly develop a sector approach that are based on that best practice.
If we could, Laura, to drill down into that a little bit more, we've got a couple other questions that touch on different facets of what you just spoke about. One was that there's a lot of city planners and code officials at least in the U.S. and probably in other countries as well, that are involved with the developments of their cities. And we have a decent number of city planners and code officials who attend these webinars. And the question is Sustainia open to working directly with these types of individuals to develop city guides for those respective cities?
Oh, yes, exactly. That's exactly what we want to achieve. We want to engage these city and urban planners. We've already engaged with some, but that's exactly the kind of expertise that we need to put into play. What we're also working on is to develop a map of how Sustainia look like, sort of like a microcosmos of the challenges we have in the world today, put into play on a physical map that we are developing with as we speak, almost, with urban and city planners. And we want to engage other city planners and help us develop the standard Sustainia cities within our overall models. So that's one way we would like to engage city planners and urban planners. But yes, we would be delighted to work with experts from various cities on how we can develop a Sustainia vision for their city, taking into account their challenges, their culture, their infrastructure. Because one thing is to develop the overall model and the vision, but we constantly need to put it to play into what's going on for people in their everyday life, in their cities, in their industry. So yes, we would be delighted to.
Great. And Cindy has a question about measurement. She's saying, there's a lot of sustainability initiatives around the world, and their work is going to influence your index. So how do you measure Sustainia's impact, direct impact on sustainability? Is that possible?
I think that will be very hard. Of course, we would like to say that because of Sustainia, we have come this far in 2015. We just hope for improvements, developments, and we want to do our very best for having a vision that is constantly updated and developed, and do our best to collaborate with existing initiatives and draw on their solid research and knowledge. But to say that we have come this and that far because of Sustainia will be a bit too pretentious. We just want to do our very best to ensure progress.
Sure. If you don't mind, Laura, we've got more questions coming in, so I'd like to continue if you're okay with that.
Of course, keep them coming.
Sure. The next question comes from Sarah, and she's asking about some of the solutions and best practices that you had referenced earlier when you were addressing the question of vision to reality. So the question then is, what are some of those solutions or best practices, and what are the ones that you're most excited about or have the biggest opportunity or the biggest potential?
Some of this will be confidential at this point because we can't say who are among the Sustainia 100 at the moment. But the first guide to Sustainia is, of course, already based on some of the existing technologies and solutions out there. And for example, we are inspired by Curitiba's bus rapid transit. We are inspired by the potential prospects, even though it's also very progressive and there's a lot of discussion about it. We are inspired by the whole concept of vertical farms. We are inspired by what they have done in New York with their High Line, how they've been able to engage or engage the citizens in creating a recreational area instead of just an abandoned trail rack. We are yeah, there's loads of solutions out there we already very inspired by that you can find in our guide to Sustainia, which is downloadable for everyone. We also will look towards technologies such as and that will be very broad and overall, but of course what we can do within solar, what we can do within retrofitting of existing cities, lighting, and all of that. But I can't really say anything about the Sustainia 100 because they are confidential until we launch them on June 20. But they represent a variety of solutions, both solutions representing the developing world, for example, how we can make sure that people in smaller communities have lighting based on solar panels. We represent solutions from also the developed world. So there's a range of solutions that we build our work on. We don't really like to highlight any specific ones before we have our Sustainia 100 in place.
No, that's fine. And it's interesting you brought up the Stadium 100 because the very next question was going to be about that, and uh, certainly respecting the confidentiality of that until its release. The question actually is a little bit more of a general question, an anonymous question, so to speak. It's given that you're funded by the private sector, do you believe then that the private sector has a greater role to play in a sustainable future than an individual would?
Oh no, those two needs to go hand in hand all the time. And the Sustainia 100 represents solutions both from the private sector, but also solutions from citizens and community projects. We think it's incredibly important that we don't take just one approach. We would never succeed if we just focused on solutions from citizens or civil society. We would need the business sector. We would never succeed if we only focused on business solutions. And we think those two groups, now that you mentioned them, are incredibly important and need to be better at collaborating and using each other for innovating new ideas, because civil society is represents the global consumer that needs to, at the end of the day, buy into the products and solutions developed by the industry. So collaboration, and no one is more important than the other. Of course, the industry in collaboration with scientists have some expertise at developing these technologies and solutions that civil society at large does not have. But then the civil society represent a knowledge that some industry leaders needs to learn from.
Sure. We've got about 15 minutes left, and we've certainly got more questions, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a benchmark on time there for people who have other engagements after this is over. If I could continue, Laura, there's a question that came in from an architectural firm, um, and obviously they're very they strongly believe in the design level as the way to impact um, the global mindset. And this may speak a little bit to the confidentiality that you were talking about earlier, but uh, I guess, are there or will there be lists of specific products and practices identified by Sustainia as being considered effective or more effective than others? Is that part of what's going to happen in June?
Yes, that's part of our picture of identifying best practice out there, and communicate them. So, and that's also something that you can uh, find to some extent in our current guide to Sustainia. But that's something that we want to focus more in our building sector guide that we launch in October. That's where we want to put these best practice to play, more than just presenting a solution. We want to go a step further. Was that answer enough?
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's uh, just wanting to get your perspective on it and Sustainia's perspective on some of these issues. The next one that comes up from Richard, um, he feels that finding passionate individuals is a relatively easy thing for him to do, but his question, I think, is is paramount to your effort. How do you feel that that you or others, I guess, could reach either companies or leaders, whether it be in business or government, who do not embrace a sustainable philosophy? How do we invite them to consider the benefits of the triple bottom line?
That's a very good question, and that's also something that has been in the back of our minds developing Sustainia. How do we reach out to people that are not excited about a sustainable society just because it's sustainable? So we constantly push the message that this will improve your quality of life. This will actually mean a better life for you, and not a more restricted one, or a society where you can't really do what you like to do. So we push the message that this is improving your quality of life, and it's also saving you money. So for us, we don't in our material communicate extensively that we need sustainability because we need to save the planet. We want a sustainable transformation because it actually makes our lives better and it saves us money. So for people that maybe don't really care about sustainability, for various reasons, could get excited about the potential of saving or making money, and excited about the potential of actually living a better and funnier life. So, a hedonistic approach to sustainability is very much what we take.
Okay. The next question comes in from John. It's a little bit controversial, but part of I think the reason that the Impact series was started was to really openly discuss uh, these issues to try and get to the solutions. Um, I don't know if this is something that Sustainia is set up to address or to factor in, but the question is about population growth. Um, John feels population growth is rarely acknowledged as a key sustainability issue, and he's wondering if Sustainia addresses that in any way.
Yes, we do, and it's part of the whole burning platform. Why is it that we need Sustainia? Um, we need to make sure that when the population growth, that the solutions and the lives that they live are more sustainable from the outset. It's definitely part of of the huge challenge that we're facing, that we get more and more people that want to live of the same resources. So the whole resource challenge is something that we are working on at the moment as well. And the fact that we've become more and more people in on the planet as a whole, but also in cities, and the cities are growing and growing. Um, so yes, it's very much part of why we started Sustainia, that we have a true concern to the current development, both or also on a population's growth issue or.
Sure. Yeah. The final question that we have today is from Kate, and she asks very directly, what sets Sustainia apart from other initiatives that are focused on city-level sustainability? Is it that Sustainia looks at it more on a global level, or are there commonalities? Are there differences? So just kind of address the differences of Sustainia, if you could, as opposed to some of the other initiatives that are city-level.
So as you yourself said, Sustainia is not a city initiative. We include cities in our whole vision, but for us it's important that we don't only look at cities. We want to collaborate with the city initiatives already out there, and include their knowledge in the approach that we take. So what sets us apart is that we're not only focused on cities, we're not focused on one sector, we're focused on taking a holistic approach to the challenges we're facing. Cities are facing many of these challenges, and also holds huge potential. Um, Generally, what sets us apart is this more positive and inspiring, we hope, approach to sustainability, and being the initiative that is focused on the vision in combination with the solutions, putting them to play, painting the fascinating picture. So that's our whole concept and approach. So um, so yeah, basically we would like to collaborate with city initiatives, and don't want to compete with them, but take into account what they have done as well.
Great. I'm going to give it back to Ron now to see if he has any other questions, and if not, just to wrap up. Um, so Ron?
Thank you, Mike. And Laura, thank you for a wonderfully informative presentation. I wonder if it would, let's return for a moment to the subject of the Rio Plus 20. I was reading this morning that CNBC has joined the World Green Summit as their global TV partner, and so that would be one way that interested parties could observe the goings-on there and follow the progress. What other recommendations do you have in terms of how our listeners might be able to stay in touch with what happens at the World Green Summit?
There are two channels that I would recommend. Of course, our channel, and follow our Facebook and website, because we will be there with a big team, and we will constantly feature and post news about what's going on, what we see, what we discover, what both in terms of what's going on in the negotiations, but also what's going on at all the civil society events and business leaders events. So we will update our community on the progress in Rio and all of the events that are going on. Another channel I could recommend for updates and news are UN Global Compact, who's also featuring news about what's going on in Rio, and then of course the official Rio Plus 20 summit, because they're actually doing quite a good job at updating people on what's going on, both within civil society, business, etc. But our community can trust that we will report and take pictures and videos of what's going on in Rio.
Very good. So we would recommend.
And I think one
Please.
thing that I will add on that is that we are constantly listening to what our community suggests. So the community is also more than welcome to ask us questions, both I mean all the time, but also in Rio, if there's anything that we should look out for, or check out for our community. If they have any questions, they are more than welcome, and we'll do the best to answer them.
Very good. Well, just a reminder to our attendees that we post all of the webinars from the Impact Series on our website at greenbuildermag.com, and I'm sure that this will be no exception. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Laura, for a very informative and lively session. And Mike, thank you for your efforts. We look forward to having you all again in the near future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ron. I wanted to thank everyone for attending today, and a special tip of the cap to all the questions that came in. I was just a very positive exchange, and I know we're all very appreciative of that. Um, if you have questions, if further questions, please send them in. Marcos, I know you had sent in a question. We're going to pass those along to Laura, and she'll be able to follow up after this webinar is over. I know also someone had asked a question about how do they find Sustainia online, and the website is www.sustainia.me. That's how you can find their presence online. Also wanted to thank our sponsors again, BASF, Bio-Based Insulation, DuPont, the Green Builder Coalition, and Uponor. And finally, I wanted to extend a special thank you to our featured presenter, Laura Storm of Sustainia, for sharing her experiences on global sustainability efforts. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation,